wonderful. Welcome again to another episode of the Nurse Empowerment and Leadership Podcast. This is a show where we highlight all the amazing work that healthcare professionals, nurses, physicians are doing in their community, in their organizations, as well as in their businesses. Today we have an amazing guest for you. Her name is Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, and I'm just going to read a little bit of her bio for you, and I'm going to allow her to talk more about herself. But this professional here, Lisa, is an amazing woman. She is doing so much. Having the opportunity to talk with her backstage, man, I learned so much from her already. Wow, listen, get ready for an amazing show. She will inspire you. She is going to share some things. And according to John Maxwell, he's always saying this, you're going to learn some things. So get ready. So Dr. Lisa Campbell, she's a keynote speaker. She's a healthcare consultant. She is a growth coach with over 3 decades of healthcare and leadership experience. She is known, ladies and gentlemen, as the growth motivator. And she didn't start there. She started in the healthcare space since 1992. And she taught EKG technician, medical billing. I love the healthcare space, guys. All of that. So she's a lady of my own heart right there. She worked in the emergency room in the past, and she worked as an orthopedics tech as well, and as a patient care tech. So today you're going to hear more about her. And by the way, Dr. Lisa is master's prepared, and she also has a doctoral degree, a Ph.D. in healthcare administration. She also possesses tons of certification. You go on our website and learn about her. I cannot get into all of that, but later on, I'm going to share about where you can locate her and learn more about her. So without any further ado, let me welcome Dr. Lisa Campbell on the stage. Welcome, Dr. Lisa. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about today's conversation.
Yes, awesome. And just talking with you backstage and reading your bio, man, I'm so impressed already and excited about this conversation. So I wanted to share with us, how did you navigate your way from teaching EKG, becoming a patient care technician, working as an orthotech, to now become an esteemed leader who is a keynote speaker? You have your PhD, and you are also a healthcare consultant. Walk me through this journey and what it took for you to get there.
Absolutely. So my journey actually started at McDonald's, believe it or not. When I
Wow.
was in high school, I had no desire to go to college. And after working at McDonald's for about 3 months, I was like, there has to be more to this job than being a cashier. And
Yeah.
so by just being very inquisitive, I learned how to work the front of McDonald's, the
Mhm.
middle of McDonald's, and the back office. And interestingly, healthcare has a front, a middle, and a back, if you will, from the perspective of how that patient flows through our system. And
Mhm.
so I thought after going to Hamburger University that I was going to own a McDonald's.
Oh my God.
And
Yeah.
then I had a baby. And I realized that milk and diapers and all those things were very expensive. And so I said, you know what? You watched your aunts go through nursing school from LPN to RN. So you got to get into healthcare. And that's when I became a medical assistant. And, after being in management for 3 years, entering the healthcare space, I quickly realized that I did not like the clinical side of healthcare. But I was like, I can be in charge of this place. And
Mhm.
so I
Yeah.
went back to school for healthcare administration. But simultaneously, as I saw new professionals coming into the industry, I was like, I think there's a deficiency in the training, right? I'll give you a perfect example. I remember working with a medical assistant, and I was observing her, and she was measuring the patient's blood pressure. And so, first of all, it was a senior citizen, and she told the patient, I'm going to take your blood pressure. And of course, the patient immediately said, what are you taking? Right. So I had to explain, we're going to measure the blood pressure, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
then the patient, the medical assistant immediately pumped the patient up to like 220. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Back in my day, that's
Mm.
when you sound older. Back in my day, we would get an estimated, right? Estimated systolic. We would look at the last three measurements. We would pump that up to 30 on top of that, right? And then if we heard something, we pump it up a little bit more because we
Mhm.
don't want to pump the patient up too high. And so when she told me we didn't learn that in school, I was like, oh, you've got to get back into educating the future generation because
Mm.
I didn't want other patients to go through that, but I also wanted them to know more than what was in the textbook.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Can you imagine? And here we are, full circle, coming back to be a consultant, getting back into the emergency department and doing all these great things. Do you do speaking engagement to nurses or healthcare professionals, so like keynote speaking in their space? Do you do that?
Absolutely. In fact, I prefer a healthcare audience, but my message is applicable to healthcare. It's applicable to automotive. It's applicable to, the banking industry.
Yeah.
Any organization or its members that are really struggling to grow,
Hmm.
those are my people, right? Because I can share with them the things that I've been through that
Yeah.
have nothing to do with their industry, but has a huge impact on their inability to grow.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm known for is being a very authentic, transparent speaker because I want people to see my heart when I get on stage.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, after 32 years in healthcare, 20 plus years of speaking, I'm always nervous when I hit that stage. The
So
day
good nervous.
before, my stomach is rumbling, right? But before I hit the stage, before I open my mouth, I always do a little prayer. And I just say, let
Yeah.
the words of my mouth and the edification of my heart be acceptable, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that nervousness is what keeps me humble, but it also positions me to reach people where they are. And that's so important.
That is so good. We all get a little bit nervous being on stage, and it's good nervousness anyway. We need to be a little bit nervous, not overly, but at least a little, and people draw from us when they see that. That's kind of help to inspire ourselves, to be honest. Yeah. My God, that
Absolutely.
is that is amazing. So, as a growth motivator, and I know that you have been inspiring individuals, empowering them, and you are teaching individuals to live out their full potential. Isn't that amazing? How do you do that?
Well, you know what? I come from a place where I didn't have a voice.
Mm,
So I mentioned that one of the reasons that I left McDonald's was because I had a baby.
yeah.
Well, turns out that I left the hospital with this little tiny bundle of joy, who
Mm,
I later found out couldn't hear, couldn't talk,
mm,
had
mm,
several intellectual disabilities. And 2 years into her life, I decided that I no longer wanted to be here. And I took
mm.
30 Tylenol. And
Oh,
it was
wow.
in that moment when my stomach was being pumped with charcoal that I
Mm,
realized that I had a reason to live. And so that
mm,
was a turning point for me where I found my voice so that I could be her voice. Because since she was deaf and mute,
mhm.
she was never going to be able to verbalize her needs. And that was my responsibility. I realized that God gave her to me for a reason, and I needed to stick around to see it through.
Gosh, wow, that is something. So you have been there, so you can identify with a lot of what or your audience maybe is going through, because many of them, they don't want to speak, they don't feel they have a voice, and then you can go right into their heart and let them know who they are and who they are, was created to be. This is an amazing assignment. My God,
Absolutely.
that is an amazing assignment. Wow. So I wanted to ask you though, on a daily basis, who your audience is healthcare, but your audience is also non-healthcare individuals as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. So, how do you how do you see healthcare, in the next 5 years or so? Because you have been in healthcare for a little bit, and many of our the individuals who are watching is going to be watching the show. Our audience is mainly healthcare. Well, I shouldn't say mainly. It's maybe 75% healthcare. That's right. And leaders and nursing students and high achievers, you know, and I believe that there are so many changes in the healthcare space, technological changes, there are patient care changes, there's so much shift. How do you see healthcare in the next 5 to 8 years, in your opinion, based on what you are seeing as a consultant today?
Well, number one, so that's a good question. Number one, artificial intelligence is already taking this industry by storm, right?
Yeah.
So I see the future, which the future is happening now, where organizations are going to require a higher level of specialization,
Mhm.
a higher level of innovation, creativity, individuals that are open minded, that are not afraid to roll up their sleeves, to tackle the technology, to embrace the technology, because we are not going back, right? COVID just really shifted how we operate. And we realized that we couldn't prepare for it,
Yeah.
but we made it on the other side, right? Just like the Spanish flu, we made it on the other side of
Mhm.
COVID. And so now some things that healthcare didn't even think about, like look at how telehealth just exploded.
Exploded.
Because yes,
Exploded. Yes, yes. Hmm.
yes, but we also saw, you know what? We can reach a larger population of mental health patients,
Hmm.
right? With telehealth. So the pandemic had so many positive as well as, negative effects.
Hmm.
But the future is going to be not for the faint of heart, but it's going to be for those individuals that are ready to grow and willing to grow continuously and not be satisfied with the status quo.
Absolutely. And I last week, I one of the things I shared with some healthcare leaders last week, I said, you know what, we must prepare to lead differently. We can't lead a team, the way we led them years ago, like 5, 10 years ago, because COVID has changed things. And no matter how we want to go back to where it was, there's no going back. So we have to shift. And that's why I like this book that John C. Maxwell wrote. It calls Leadership. And you're right about that. There are changes, and we just have to work with the changes, and we just have to flow as we move forward, you know?
Absolutely. And we have to be agile, right? We
Yeah.
can't we can't lead others how we were led, right? So you can't be this dictator. You have to learn how to be a servant leader. You
Yes,
have to learn how to be vulnerable with
absolutely.
your workforce,
Mhm.
right? You can't walk in every day like everything is all good.
Mhm.
Let them see those weak moments that you're having, because then they'll realize, oh, our leader
Mhm.
really is human.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's one of the reasons why one of the words I don't like this word, or I don't use it when I'm talking about leadership, is subordinate. No one is below you, meaning that you walk in and you're like a part of the team. You roll up your sleeve, you're a servant leader, and when you reach out to them like that, people respond to you. Your team members will respond to you even more when you do that. And I like what you said about that, because that is definitely the right way to lead. It's the right way to shift as we move forward.
Absolutely. And you know what? I learned that skill, believe it or not, in 1989 at McDonald.
Yes.
And what I learned was when I cultivated other skills and helped supported them through their growth journey,
Hmm.
they appreciated me and honestly would do anything I asked because we were working together. They weren't working for me.
Yes, yes. Lisa, what would you say to an individual, whether that person is in healthcare or not? Because I know you serve different, people, not just healthcare. But what will you say to them if they really have something in their heart to do, like something that has been impressing on them that they need to launch or to do something, and they're afraid to step out, they're afraid to use their voice, they don't feel like they can do it, they don't feel worthy about what they can do, they feel inadequate. What would you say to an individual like that to move forward, to take the next step as a growth motivator? I know we.
Yes. So, as the growth motivator, I do a lot of reading. So, you mentioned John C. Maxwell. The book is right behind me, right? So,
Yeah.
one of the books that I read was "The Mountain Is You,"
Yeah.
and one of the things that I realized about mountains, they're meant for you to climb them, get to
Mhm.
the other side, and then once you get to the other side, the next step is okay, what's next? So
Yeah.
a lot of times the mountain is you that's preventing you from getting to that next step. And so I'll tell you what I do. So number 1, I set an annual individual growth plan. This is where I think about what are the things that I want to do this year. I am done being overwhelmed with how I'm going to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another book that I read, Who Not How, which taught me that I didn't have to do everything alone, that
Hmm.
via a community, I could take little baby steps to
Yes.
reach my dreams. And
Mhm.
so every goal that I set, it's called a big, hairy, audacious goal. Jim Collins,
Mhm.
he coined that statement, right? And
Yeah.
so what that means is you're always aiming higher and you're achieving more. Every time you get to the top of the mountain, you set a new, bigger goal. And
Yes.
sometimes the toughest mountain is the person who's staring you in the mirror every day. And to overcome that, to reach that top, you have to overcome your doubts, overcome your fears, overcome your limits. And every step that you take will show you how strong you are. And don't be afraid to draw upon strengths from 30 years ago. You heard me talk about McDonald's.
Yeah.
McDonald's helped me learn how to manage people and resources. It allowed me to see everybody as equal. And so the key, stay motivated, stay focused, and keep reaching for your dreams. When you do that, you can achieve some amazing things.
Wow. Can you imagine you taking your lessons from McDonald to step into healthcare consulting, leadership, keynote speaking, motivating? That's amazing. So for some of you out there who are thinking that, you know what, I worked at McDonald's, or I've worked as a CNA, or I worked as a PCT, or I worked in the field somewhere, and that experience meant nothing. That's not true. Your experience means something. So everything that we have done in our lives, we can take it and build on it and take it to the highest level. Wow, that is so powerful. Wow. So, Dr. Lisa, you have been doing a lot, and one of the things I also want to ask you, and that will help me too, because I know sometimes I'm overwhelmed with what I have to do. So how do you balance on your role, or what you're doing, your assignments on a day-to-day basis? Because you're a consultant, you're a keynote speaker, and you do webinars and seminars. And how do you balance all of that and incorporate self-care into it?
That self care word, I think a lot of people are intimidated by it. And so I just want to dispel the myth that self care requires you to pay some money to somebody else. For
Mm,
me,
yes.
self care is sitting down, reading a book. For me, self care is writing down my deepest thoughts. For me, self care is just sitting in silence. Today, we are allowing all of these distractions. Number one distraction, this right here, right?
Oh.
It is attached to our hip. We
Mm.
wake up in the morning with one eye open, looking at the phone.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. Mhm.
And so I encourage everyone to just take one thing that you really enjoy to do and do it. And for me, reading the book, silence, um, writing, reflecting. And sometimes, and I'm going to be very honest, sometimes it's a bath and I'm sitting there crying in gratitude for all that I've been able to do,
Yeah.
right? The 18-year-old version of me never saw who I became today, who I am today.
Wow.
And so I'm sitting in gratitude, but I'm also sometimes crying because there are some things that I was afraid to do. And I made the decision to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'm crying on my way climbing up that mountain. And then, sometimes you look back down and you like, oh, I'm further to the top than I am from the bottom. So let me keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That is so awesome. And you know what? Silence is self-care. Just wake up in the morning, just relax, just lying on your bed or sitting in a chair or just be silent for 10, 15 minutes. Just listening and just quiet yourself. That is self-care. You know, self-care, the term self-care is definitely overrated because people don't understand that just to sit and look through your window, that's part of that is self-care. You know,
Absolutely.
we all have to do something that we love. And I like what you say about gratitude. Gratitude is there's a song one of our Jamaican artists sings that says gratitude is a must. Gratitude is definitely a must, and to move yourself from where you were to where you are today and all this accomplishment, that takes a lot. And we have done it afraid. We have to get ourselves out of our own way and step into our assignment, step into the place that we need to be, because each and every one of us has something in our hand that God wants to work with so that we can make this world a better place and we can expand and improve and fulfill our mission, and live out our potential. So wow,
Absolutely.
that is so my God, this is so rich. So Dr. Lisa, is there anything else you want to share with us before we close off this? We have another 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? What you'd like the audience to know about you or what you're doing or and how they can connect with you?
Absolutely. So, two things. You can find me by Googling the Growth Motivator. I will come up on any of your browsers, or also by my name, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. I am on all social media channels.
Yes.
And I want to circle back to a statement that I made and add to it, which was about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. November, or not November, but November 2022, I made this big decision, right? And then April 2023, on the sunny beaches of Montego Bay, Jamaica,
Wow.
my one of my favorite places, one of my favorite places,
Yeah.
I finished writing my book and I spoke the book to a computer crying. And my roommate was like, "Did you record the voice?" And I said, "No, I just had the computer record my words."
Mm.
But the chapter was called Faith Over Fear. And when I finished recording the chapter and walked out of the room to an event, I had this glow about my face, no makeup, nothing, but I had this natural glow from shedding all the things that were holding me back. And I
Mm.
decided I was no longer going to be held hostage by my fears, by what people thought about me, that I
Yes.
was moving forward and I'm not looking back.
Gosh. How does that feel though?
Woo, I have a picture that reminds me of it, and it's such a great place to be in
Yes.
because they say peace that passes all understanding. Oh,
Yes.
I got that peace. I have that peace, and it feels so good.
That's liberating, right?
It is.
My gosh, I know what it is like to be afraid of what people think. I know what it is like to be afraid to go on stage thinking that, oh my God, I don't have anything to say, or even what I have to say, no one will want to even hear what you have to say, that kind of a thing. But when you get that, I call it deliverance. When you get that deliverance from people, because the same people that you're thinking, you're worried about what people are thinking. Some of the people you are thinking about, they're not doing anything. So why worrying about what they're thinking? And sometimes they are not even thinking about us. So I would say, step outside, step out of that fear. And I like what you share about just shedding it, just shedding fear, and just step out of that comfort zone and walk into the promised land. Wow, that is so amazing. Can you imagine if all of us who have the skills and the talent and the experience would step out and do that? This world would be such a beautiful place. And not just that, but the feeling of fulfillment that you accomplish when you have done that. There's a feeling of accomplishment, a sense of accomplishment. It's liberating.
It
Right?
is.
We want to see more healthcare professionals do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Lisa L. Campbell, and she can be found. You can connect with her on LinkedIn, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. She is on all the social media platforms, so make sure you connect with her. And by the way, you have a webinar this evening. Tell us a little bit about tonight's webinar, so that if anyone wants listening, they can jump on your webinar.
Yeah, so the webinar is titled The Weight, WEIGHT, of the Weight, WAIT. And so, as the growth motivator, I'm always encouraging individuals to shed the weight. And it occurred to me that I needed to share with them, what do you do when you're waiting?
Yeah.
So that's what the webinar is about, and it will be on my YouTube channel. And I actually have two YouTube channels, The Growth Motivator, and then by my name, Dr. Lisa L. Campbell. And I'm so excited to have that intimate conversation with my audience, because I know so many people, especially in healthcare, right? Healthcare, we're beat up every day.
Yeah.
And so just being able to share 5 to 10 tips with the individuals that are going to attend and listen afterwards is going to really help me go to sleep tonight feeling like I've contributed to somebody else's growth.
Yes, yes, yes. Wow, that is so good. So, ladies and gentlemen, get on LinkedIn and sign up for our webinar and connect with her. Dr. Lisa is an amazing and a dynamic professional. She is an inspirer, she is a motivator, and she will help you to move your life from where you are today to where you need to be. Dr. Lisa, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here, and we know we have to get you back on this podcast for part 2, because you have so much that you need to share. And that is the end of our webinar, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to wrap up, and we will see you on the next podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast.